Welcome back to another episode of Music is My Mantra. Today we have a very special guest, Bubba Startz, on the pod. And Bubba is a very multifaceted songwriter. He's an entrepreneur. He's got a whole series of different podcasts, and we'll talk about all of the different things he's got his hands in. Just this last year, he won Content Creator of the Year award by Midwest Country Music Org, which is sounds awesome. Can't wait to hear about that. And it sounds like he's very passionate in supporting local artists and other songwriters and the whole community. So I'm very excited to have you on today. Welcome, Bubba.
You nailed it. Great intro. I love it.
Thank you. Yeah, so I mean, we just had a brief conversation before we hopped on here, but it sounds like you have so many different things going on, and I'm I'm so curious. Like, let's start with your songwriting. You are first and foremost a songwriter. What got you started in music?
I come from a musical family. So some of my earliest memories, grandma had an accordion, my dad's mom, my dad plays guitar, his brother plays guitar. Grandma would pass around the sheet music at Christmas time and everyone
That's awesome.
was required to sing, right? And not that anyone ever shied away from it, right? So I just grew up around a family that was very comfortable, not just, listening to music, but performing.
Hmm.
And so it kind of starts from there. And then, I started playing a drums and concert band, fifth grade, sixth grade, all the way
Nice.
through my freshman year of high school. Really loved the marching band stuff.
Hmm.
And in between, so like seventh, eighth grade, I joined the middle school jazz band and I started on the bass,
Okay.
seventh grade, and, just needed more. I'm a
Hmm.
singer. I'm a storyteller. I'm a talker. I've always been, I mean, my nickname was Mouth to my from my mother, even
That's
as a young
hilarious.
child, because I just wouldn't shut the hell up. Sorry for cussing on you, but the bass was nice. It was fun. It was an introduction to stringed instruments, but really when I got a guitar, eighth grade, Christmas time, dad got me a Stratocaster, and being a huge, rock and roll music fan, obviously classic rock was big. I grew up with a lot of Grateful Dead in the house, and I loved songwriting. I loved what a song could mean.
Hmm.
So kind of once I got a guitar in my hand, it really started to escalate quickly.
Yeah.
It was immediately writing songs and being able to get this out, and it was how I got out all of these feelings inside of me without having to be necessarily like loud and angry, which is how
Mm.
most emotion comes out for men in my family. So it kind of allowed me to tap into that, maybe that softer, that feminine energy, right?
Mm. Yeah.
And to
Yourself.
express these really deep feelings and thoughts that I was having even as a teenager, and it's just continued to progress from there.
That is so cool. I love that you notice that too, that it's like, you have family patterns, and I'm the same way with my songwriting, and getting into music has really kind of helped me to focus myself and, end patterns that aren't so healthy and just like put it into music. What do you think? Do you remember like what some of the earlier songs were about that you wrote about?
Yeah, I mean, I have one that I still play to this day called
Cool.
All My Friends, which was kind of like leaving and entering the unknown, right? But we always have these memories. And a lot of the, like, the tagline in the chorus was, remember the good times and you'll never be sad, right?
Mm.
And kind of carrying that. I was probably 15 or 16 years old when I wrote that song. So it was probably, relating to high school and what it's going to be like after you leave graduation and you have, this friend group, and you know that you're never going to be able to come back to that. But
Yeah.
as long as you remember the good times from that, that it will kind of continue to serve you. That time will continue to serve you in the future. And yeah, that's one
That's
that
so
gets
cool.
played a lot. The other end of the spectrum, I wrote one when I was 18, the first time I went to jail, called the jail song. That is literally almost a verbatim story of how it happened. And
Wow.
obviously, that's a huge fan favorite. So I mean, they were all kind of stories of my life, right? Like, I'm
Yeah.
not necessarily the type of songwriter. I talk to a lot of people that spend time in Nashville now and
Hmm.
in the country music world. Obviously, a lot
Hmm.
of my friends have traveled through there and have that songwriting is different. For me, it's a very personal thing.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm going to wake up and I'm just going to write about a topic today. Like, I have no interest in that.
Hmm.
I'm using music to tell you exactly how I feel about something and not using the craft of songwriting to necessarily like get famous
Yeah.
or to have a career in song and oh, this song would be perfect for someone else. No, these
Yeah.
songs are mine.
I
They are
totally
mine
I
and
get
I'm
that.
just and that's just how I am and I don't begrudge anyone who treats songwriting differently. It's probably why I adopted now podcasting and building out communities because
Hmm.
that's what I'm really about. It's not necessarily that I want to be a famous performer. I just like being around creative people. And
Yep.
now, thank goodness for, podcasting that I get to do that without having to go out and performing all of the time.
Yeah.
Even though this is very similar to a performance, it feels different, right?
Sure. You don't have to lug your equipment around and set up everything and,
Oh,
pre-sell
I miss the
tickets.
days. I miss the days busking on the beach and it was just me and the guitar, right? And now it's a
Oh,
whole truck and trailer full of equipment
yeah.
and I wouldn't trade it for anything as I'm sure you wouldn't either.
Totally. That's so cool. I definitely think that we have so many parallels, the community building aspect and yeah, the songwriting from personal experience. Have you ever been told that your lyrics are like not universal enough?
I
Because
I'm
I
I've
have.
never been attached to industry, right?
Okay, interesting.
I've never reached out to industry. I've
Hmm.
never, obviously your location is going to you're just around it, right?
Yeah.
You can't help it. But I've never been interested. I mean, even when I
Yeah.
was in Los Angeles, I was on the beach, baby. I wasn't doing nothing. I wasn't leaving
So,
that
so
and
you
kind
lived
of
out
got a
here for a minute?
yeah, so
Yeah.
about 3 months or so,
Okay.
and it wasn't under the best of circumstances. I had a friend who was sick who had to
Mm.
be in Los Angeles for the care of LA County Hospital. But the way we survived was me going down to the beach
Mm.
every day with my guitar. I'd make between $200 and $300 on the beach some days.
Great.
Not all the days were great, but
Yeah.
I learned a lot. I had never really performed for money like
Hmm.
that before, but it kind of assessed that value. It was like, well, if you go out with your guitar and if you can make $100 on the beach pretty much on any given day,
Yeah.
then a bar can pay you $100.
Yeah.
So for that, it was that. And also, I mean, we treated it like a job. I was working, 8 hours out there a day,
Wow.
making as much money as we could just for
Hmm.
survival,
Yeah.
knowing that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday aren't going to be good days. You have to get out on the weekends and really
Sure.
grind. So
Yeah.
it kind of taught me a work ethic being
Hmm.
out there. It definitely gave me a value in life, but also, vivid memories, especially of one gal. I was singing a Pearl Jam song, Black,
Hmm.
a very emotional song, a very raw song, right?
Yeah.
And she kind of like came down to the bench behind me where I'm performing and is just like in
Mm.
tears. And I kind of
Wow.
finished and I'm like, hey, I'm so sorry. And she's like, no, it's what I needed,
Yeah.
right?
Like
And that was maybe the first time that had
catharsis.
happened to me. I was 20, 21 years old, right?
Wow.
I had
That
lived
just gave
almost
me
no
chills.
life. Yeah, I had almost lived no life and
Wow.
I hadn't really lived through experiences that moved me that way to then have a song that pulled you out of it to move you that way. I just hadn't
Hmm.
had the life experience yet. But to see that power was like, wow, wow,
Yeah.
like I want to do that with my songs. And
Yeah.
here we are now 20 years removed from that point. And undoubtedly I've lived that through my songs. And yeah, those memories of Venice Beach, both ways,
Yeah.
it was a trying time sleeping in hotels
Hmm.
and worried about if you didn't make that money, where were you going to sleep? How were you going to eat? It
Yeah.
was a very high pressure situation to be in and to have to go out and to perform
Yeah.
because you needed it. And I don't know that I've had that since,
Mm.
right? I don't know that I've ever had that level of stress on me since then. Maybe we can talk about times in Mexico where I was also playing for my dinner as well, but I don't know how
Wow.
much time you got on this podcast.
How long were you in Mexico for?
So I was in Mexico on the run from some legal troubles here in South Dakota from 2015, like May of 20 or June of 2015 until May of 2016. So I was there almost a full year, no passport, no visa. I was an illegal alien in the heart of Mexico,
Oh
all
my
the way down
gosh.
in the state of Hidalgo. So I was about an hour and a half north of Mexico City. So way down there, not in a border town or a tourist area whatsoever.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I called myself El Gringo de Tulancingo. That was the name of the little city that we were around. And I played on the square down there
Yeah.
every single, every chance that I got. And the same thing. Maybe it wasn't $200 or $300, right? It was two or
Right.
300 pesos, but it
Yeah.
was the same thing. I was playing down there because I needed to feed my wife and child. Yeah, revisiting that nine, 9, 10 years removed from being on Venice Beach doing it was such a weird. I'm starting to check the calendar and be like, is that revolution coming again? Am I about
Yeah.
to go back to playing for my supper here real
Oh my
soon?
gosh. Wow. Did you learn some Spanish songs while you were down there?
Never. Well, no, because they all wanted to hear American songs, right? They wanted to hear CCR and the
Yeah.
Beatles and
Yeah.
the number one requested song down there, Hotel California.
There you go.
I would
Wow.
play it 3, 4 times a day because every time I played it, 20 to 50 pesos showed up, right? So you're like, well, it,
Yeah.
it, it changed it changed me because I think even when I was playing on Venice Beach, I was playing for me. I was still just
Mhm.
like, I'm going to play all the songs that I know that affect me.
Yeah.
And then, 10 years later in Mexico, I was like, I need to play the songs that you want to hear because I need that money now.
Yeah.
I have a wife and a child that need this. How are we going to eat today?
Mm.
And, it was a glorious experience, right? I would never trade it for anything.
Yeah.
But once again, high stress level,
For sure.
sleeping in places with dirt floors and very third world Mexico, not what you see in
Yeah.
Cancun or Puerto Vallarta or even in Mexico City. I mean, we're in a very poor area and just beloved. They loved us. They
Wow.
took such good care of us. All of the people did, and it was. I mean, undoubtedly shaped a lot of who I am today. It
Yeah.
humbled me, right?
Yeah.
Because before I went down there, I was spending Monopoly money. I was selling weed, Courtney.
Mm.
I had all the money, right? I
Yeah.
had thousands of dollars that I didn't work a bit for, and then juxtapose that for you have no money and you need 100 pesos just to feed your family today.
Mm.
And a peso is like 10 pesos is like $5.
Right.
Like not even, no, it's 50 cents, right? I think
Yeah.
it's 20 to 1 or whatever it was when I was down there. So yeah, a lot, man. We're
Wow.
bringing up a lot of these
Yeah, I
old
mean, but that's the
feelings.
power of music, right? I mean, do you that like I'm sure that those experiences shaped you in wanting to create a community where p other people could feel and can feel as loved and cherished as you felt when you were in Mexico struggling. I mean, there's just so much power of music that brings people together, and I'm sure that, yeah,
And a universal language. I mean, I had never been out of the country before.
mm,
I grew up in South Dakota. I didn't have a lot of exposure to other cultures at all.
yeah,
But I had seen it a little bit in California. Everybody loved what I was doing down there. It
mhm,
didn't, it didn't matter. You kind of find your 30%, right? You find the people that like you and
yeah,
like what you're doing. You gravitate to them. I would hang out in front of the Venice Bistro a lot because that's kind of where my people were.
mm,
That's where the Doors cover band was on the weekends. And that's where it
yeah,
was like, okay, you people are coming here to hang out around that classic rock vibe.
yep,
You're going to appreciate what I'm doing more than being somewhere else that's not. So like I
sure,
said, I learned a lot about the business of music and the business of busking,
yeah,
right? While I
yeah,
was down there. So when I landed in Mexico 10 years later, I knew exactly what I was doing, right?
yeah,
I was like,
wow,
this is where I'm going to go. I'm going to go right here so I can cast my voice off of this building so that you can hear me everywhere around
mm,
here. And
smart,
if you're in the heart of Mexico and you hear someone singing in English and you're pretty sure that it's not the radio, you're going to be interested.
yeah,
And it would happen, especially on Sundays, the family. I mean, some of these kids
mm,
that saw us, and maybe some of the adults, they had never seen a light-skinned person. They have
mm,
never met someone with blue eyes. They have never so culturally, yeah, I could never trade that experience and I could never get it anywhere else,
mm,
right? I could never get that just being a tourist somewhere. We
yeah,
had to live there. These people saw me for a year going out there and grinding. I'm
mm,
sure there's people in that town still that are like, whatever happened to that white guy that was singing?
Wow. Did you write
But
any
it's
songs from that experience? I'm gonna probably
um
guess that you did, but I'm
right.
curious.
Well, and you know what? I think those songs are still inside of me, Courtney. A lot of this because when I came back from Mexico because it's so stressful that
Hmm.
whole time. You're
Yeah,
not in that space to really write
I
music and
totally
to
understand
being
that.
reflective. You're in
Yeah,
survival mode.
yeah.
And then I went right back from there and I did 2 years in prison. So yes, some of them kind of came out over that time when I had a little more time on my hands, and there was a few in there. But I think a lot of these songs are still inside of me,
Hmm.
and I haven't found the words for them yet because I haven't had the outlet to share the stories and
Mm,
to get out there and to rehash all these feelings. I mean,
yeah,
the physical feelings in my heart right now while I'm talking about California, while I'm talking about this time in Mexico, like my body's reacting to that.
yeah,
The heart's starting
yeah,
to pump a little faster, like, oh yeah. Oh yeah, I remember what it's like being hungry
yeah,
and having that world on your shoulders, and it's different now, right? I have a
mhm,
wonderful wife who we work very well together. I don't have all that pressure
yeah,
coming down on just one person now,
yeah.
right? Yeah, that's true. I didn't expect that. That was a very unexpected. The heart palpitations,
Well, isn't that
talking about and
interesting how
revisiting.
our body holds these emotions? And it really is like when you like I got out of this relationship over a year ago that I really just had a crazy experience and it was definitely, I wrote some songs while I was in it, but it was only now recently that I've had some time to then go back and like remember these things. The words are starting to come out and I mean, maybe this podcast will inspire some songs. It definitely sounds like you've got, some more stories to tell about that point in your life. So,
Well, and it's half the
whew,
reason that I needed to start my own podcast. So,
yeah.
really, how this began with the scene projects, which we haven't talked about much yet, but
Yeah.
it really started because I was releasing some music back in early 2024. I was a
Hmm.
new member of the Midwest Country Music Organization. I, was getting some local news attention and different things, releasing the songs, and in the big lead up, right, the release. I did, the TV news station in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, which is our biggest city. I did a
Hmm.
podcast up there and I did another podcast with someone on the other side of the state. And then that was it, right? Like that was the whole media tour. And I could have been more proactive looking for people like yourself that are much farther outside of it. But
Mm.
it was like that was it. And not just for like South Dakota, but Iowa doesn't have a lot going on in that. Minnesota didn't have a lot going on outside of the cities.
Hmm.
So I really wanted to be that voice. And we don't have any arts magazines like LA Weekly or what, you know what I mean? We don't have any of
Yeah.
that. And when I was traveling, that's one of the first things I'd always grab. That's how you find the open mics. That's how you
Yeah.
find what's going. Well, we don't have any of that. So the scene projects was kind of born from this need to build a community because I was already networked in with everybody. I already knew
Mm.
everybody, like
Yeah.
South Dakota's not that big of a state to begin with. It's less than 800,000 people.
Mm.
So the musicians on that, like you just start breaking it down, you're like, I know a pretty vast majority of the musicians, at least who are out there working, booking shows and playing. I have my pulse, have my finger
Yeah.
on that pulse.
Yeah.
And that's really where I was like, okay, then we are the ones, right? Like
Yeah.
nobody else is coming that is as connected as you are.
Hmm.
Anyway, if they are, they're maybe not in this space or have that bent towards doing it.
Sure.
So why not? I
Yeah.
did one episode in studio with my friend Dave Holly, and I was like, I have a podcast studio at home. And he's like, yeah, you definitely do. Like having not even needing to see your space,
Yeah.
knowing you as a person, the equipment that you need is so minimal. I mean, what are we doing right now? We're on Zoom. We
Right.
have webcams and that's really it. And
Yeah.
that's kind of been my recommendation now because of a lot of what we're talking about. Podcasts are changing the world. Even if it's just me and you who are changed by this conversation,
Hmm.
they're changing my world.
Yeah.
So it's changing the world around me as well. And it's like once that kind of hit, it was like you can't stop. You can't stop having
Yeah.
these conversations with these people and getting to know artists that are close to you. And now it's getting to know artists around the world, around the
Yeah.
country. And then we get to go out on tour and meet these people. And it's
Yeah.
just building something incredible. So I want to, kudos to you for starting a podcast as well. I'm sure everyone in LA has a podcast by now, but
Honestly, I'm kind of there's not a lot of podcasts about music, and I haven't found one about music and wellness. And so I think it's really important that we have these conversations. And I'm sure that you kind of feel the same way. It sounds like with your story, connecting local artists in your state and surrounding areas, because I know, like, I grew up between here in California and Tucson, Arizona, which is also a small community. And, it's it's pretty rich in the arts, but it's small town vibes. And so people, people go to the shows and it's like it's very supportive, but how do we get the word out, right? Because we have this technology to connect with more people, like you said. And yeah, I mean, I think it's fabulous. Like, I want to hear more about you guys have through the scene projects. I know you've done like maybe not an open night, but you've done some like live
Showcases.
shows.
Yep,
Yeah,
yep.
yeah, that's pretty cool.
Songwriter. Yep,
Yeah,
songwriter showcases, and it just keeps evolving. So we did our first one. We did it up in Minneapolis, and it was all with Midwest Country Music Organization members.
nice.
And because I knew all these people, it's like, hey, I know I'm going to be in town. We were going to a Vikings game on a Monday night. My band was playing at a venue on Saturday, and I had
Fun.
approached the venue like, hey, can I use your space on Sunday and invite some of my friends out?
Hmm.
And I literally decided to film the thing for our YouTube channel on the
Great.
way to Minneapolis, called somebody in the network and was like, yeah, hey, can you show up with your cameras? And I'm so glad that we did
Yeah.
because it really allowed us to capture the moment to show everyone else, like, hey, I love that we're doing songwriters rounds and we're doing a lot of these other things, but look if you can present it like this, how spectacular this looks, right?
Yeah.
Well, grab a couple of cameras and put it on there. And I paid a lot to have somebody else do it. Now we're kind of learning how to do it more on our own
Cool.
and to invest in I didn't know if this was going to be something that was viable for the future anyway.
Yeah.
But once you kind of watch it, and we have some of the episodes up on our YouTube right now, you see what it means and what it can mean for someone. Maybe it's not a ton of views right now, but I think any views for an independent artist are good. If you can get
Hmm.
one fan every day, or, from something that you are physically not having to push, right? Fans are coming into you from someone else, i.e., me,
Hmm.
pushing your stuff out there, then everyone's won at that
Yeah,
point. So,
absolutely. Absolutely. So how many different artists have you had on your podcast so far?
well, I know we have over 200 episodes that we have done. Now, some of those have been repeats, not a
Hmm.
lot of them,
Hmm.
but yeah, I would say we've had conversations with over 200 artists because some of the full length episodes we've done, we've had songwriter showcases that haven't had people that were from there. So, yeah, I'd say
Cool.
well over 200 and rocketing.
Amazing. Yeah, congrats. That's huge.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, and I can't wait to have you on sometime soon. And I would love to
Yeah.
come out to Los Angeles and to do the same thing, right? The Songwriter
Yeah.
Showcase is what allows me to now kind of double dip, right? Because I can
Hmm.
go out and book my band or solo gigs. I have enough of a reputation
Hmm.
that I can book myself anywhere around the country. Maybe not making the money that I'm used to at home, but I can get myself there. Then it's, well, I'm here. Why don't we talk about you? Right? I
Hmm.
came
Hmm.
all this way. I don't just want to talk about me. I would love to get to know you and some of your friends. And I think it's been very, very organic how it's
Yeah.
grown so far and
Hmm.
how it will continue to grow. I mean, it's one conversation at a time that we're doing this.
Hmm.
If the growth happens over the next 40 years, I literally have no other plans for my career, right? Like we want it to grow quickly right now to be able to establish a baseline of
Yeah.
we are here.
Yeah.
And it's why we push. We're going to pass 200,000 views on our YouTube in 6 months. Right? Like
Amazing.
not in 6 months. We have only been around for 6 months on the YouTube channel, really pushing it. And we're figuring out all of this digital social media. We talked about our age a little bit. We're kind of on the upper echelon of that. We didn't necessarily grow up with, the
Uh,
phones in our hands and all of this
yeah.
technology at our fingertips. I've
Hmm.
had to learn all of this as a 30 something, right? And
Us
to
millennials.
yeah, well, and I'm really biting into that now where I'm like, we're
Uh,
completely forgotten. We grew up
yeah.
in an analog world, and especially artists, and I can
Yeah.
speak because we're close to the same age. Your lived experience might be slightly different, but for me, when I was in high school and just starting my career, it was, well, you have to go to LA. You have to go to Nashville and you have to go and you have to play this game. And yeah, you're going to play for nothing for 2 decades and you're going to do that. I was just like, I don't want anything to do with that.
Yeah, you
Especially
want to
when I
find your
came
own
home
way.
at 21, 22, and in South Dakota, I got paid $500 for our band's first gig. I
Mm,
was able to go pay all these grown men that were playing with me $100 a piece and a bar tab. And I was like, why would I go play for nothing? Because
yeah.
the experience was the same in Oregon. Oh, yeah, well, come in, you can play for tips. And I was just like, that doesn't seem right to me.
Yeah. Well, and that's what's so interesting. I was in New York for a decade before I moved out to Los Angeles, and it's kind of the same thing there. There's a lot of like pay to play places, and on one hand, I was able to connect with so many different talented musicians that it really helped push me in, learning my craft and just going my own route and finding my own artist style and that sort of thing. On the other hand, there always was this pressure of the industry to do something a certain way or, to make a hit of some
To
kind.
conform.
Yeah, yeah. And, I found like now I'm in this really happy little bubble of like my own writing and my own, I have my marketing business that sustains my bills so that I'm not forced to be busking on the street. Like I have also done that before, but I've always had that sort of marketing background to rely on, which has helped. But now I'm like, well, how can we build this together? Because I think at its roots, community and music are like the foundation of a healthy society, honestly. And people just overlook the music aspect, but it's really, like you said, it's the universal language. Um,
Well, and do you, I
yeah.
mean, to put it this way, culturally, do you have the hippie movement without music? Do you have a cultural revolution in the 60s without the songs that accompany that?
Mm,
Right? And I
hmm.
would say pretty definitively, hell no.
Right.
It doesn't happen. But
Yeah.
the industry being what it is now, it is built as a business now, where
Hmm.
I think back in the day, right, it was all about, oh my God, this is great music and
Yeah.
we got to get this stuff out there.
Hmm.
Now, you're not even going to get sniffed by a major label unless you're already gone viral on TikTok,
For sure.
right? And
Yeah.
I'm just so unplugged, and I'm big on companies. I got introduced to Rick Barker shortly after I got, not personally, but
Mm.
to his world. He's Taylor Swift's former manager, and he's built a coaching, kind of business and community around himself, helping
Interesting.
other artists, right?
Yeah.
So he kind of introduced me to that. I found Indiepreneur through them, the Creative Juice podcast, and I was just like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, this is how I'm going to do it now. And it's taken me, I've been out of prison for 7 years. It's taken me this long to finally be like, I think we got a handle on this. And
Yeah.
now we're all going to jump into the quantum world here soon, and it's going to be a
Right.
restart of everything anyway. But I'm really enjoying where I'm at right now. Somehow the time has passed enough where I'm an OG now, right?
Right.
I'm one
Right.
of these people that looked up to, and it's growing in that now of
Yeah.
that these younger artists are out there. They do see you as a little bit of maybe not a career path, right? I don't want anyone
Hmm.
to take that, but as someone who's been there, done that, and
Hmm.
can give some advice. And that's why I created the Midwest Original Music Organization, loving what the MCMO was doing, the Midwest CMO was doing in the country music space, was like, well, I would like my network is, I got friends that do hip hop music and rock
Hmm.
music and metal and all these other things.
Yeah.
And not that the Midwest CMO wouldn't let those people in just because of the country connotations. It's kind of like, well, then why? But why would I do that, right? As a metal artist, why would I join a country music organization? It just doesn't make much sense.
Right.
So that's what we created, the Momos, and we're busy growing that now because
That's
community
great.
is so important,
Hmm.
especially as independent artists, business owners, songwriters, right? Like we are
Hmm.
all in a very same ocean, different. We're not all in the same boat, but we're in the same lake and we're facing a lot of the same problems.
Yeah.
And if I can help you, I would love to do that, right? If I can give
Yeah.
you one small piece of advice, I would love to do that. So
Yeah.
the Facebook groups and communities that we're building are just an extension of that. Why wouldn't I give you good advice instead of being like, nah, I'm not going to tell her anything. Like it's collaboration.
Absolutely, absolutely. And well, so let's talk about your music a little bit more. We've talked a lot about community and the podcast and everything. And I know you recently put out some songs. I'm going to read your music bio here because
I love it.
why
I
not?
don't even know what this says. I wrote it so long ago now, probably that I don't remember, but I hope it sounds good still.
All right, let's give it a shot. If Southern rock married classic country and the kid grew up grunge and started listening to EDM and hip hop, it's kind of like that. Updating the vibe of classic rock and country with modern themes and collaborations, driven grooves, powerful rock performances, thought provoking lyrics, Bubba Startz is bringing great songwriting back to rock music and revitalizing something inside music fans that's been missing connection. So, we've talked a lot about connection. Tell me about your most recent album.
Well, and we got one in the cooker right now. That's
Great.
probably the best stuff that I've ever done. But I released
Awesome.
three singles in the last, 18 months or so.
Hmm.
And I haven't released one for a while now because we've been so focused on our podcast. But I wanted to put some new music out there. I did an album back in like 2010, really rushed through local studio, got charged way too much money, and just right, like all the nightmare scenarios
Yep.
that we've lived through, 2010,
Unfortunately, we get
2009.
to live and
Yeah.
learn. Yep.
Yeah, well, it was different then. We didn't
Yeah.
have all the stuff that we have now. It was,
Yeah.
hey, do you got a guy that has Pro Tools and all the stuff? And now I record everything from home
Yeah.
and at a fraction of the cost. But so I was kind of a bad taste in my mouth from that, right? So
Yeah.
and it was something I was never really proud of. Like at the end of the day, it was just like, yeah, I have my songs out here, and you can call it an album, but it's really just a collection of demos that we rush through that don't really have that to them, right? They're not
Okay.
just like perfect. So I really wanted to come back out and release some new music, 2023, 24, and to put a little bit, some of the new music out there. I call what we do modern gypsy rock. That is kind of how I put a title on everything that you read in the bio,
Nice.
and to really start putting it out there. So we released Rise Up, which is kind of a country, kind of a country rock vibe, a Marshall Tuckerish vibe, if you will.
Okay.
And we shot a music video for that out on my in-laws farm
Fun.
here in Tyndall, South Dakota. We filmed at a local bar of ours that we just love called the Cottonwood, and just filmed us and our friends, right?
Hmm.
And it was such a joy to work in the studio with my friends and to take my time with the recording. And
Yeah.
that one was kind of fun because we did work with a producer out of Nashville, but everybody recorded remotely. So
Mm.
we have drums that came from the UK, guitar
Wow.
player on the other side of the state, bass player in Nashville, me here in, Eastern South Dakota. It was cool to see that come together. And
Hmm.
then for the next single, it was like, well, it was nice to have that experience, but I wanted to work with, specifically my guys. And I recorded Triple Fine with my friend Tom Freer at Cottonwood Studios out there in Rapid City, South Dakota. And I had him and another good friend of ours, Clayton Ryan, who's actually right there on that album cover.
Okay. Hey,
Um,
Clayton.
they jumped on for me, and I mean, these are both songwriters and musicians in their own rights
Hmm.
who are now contributing to my art. And now we've taken that a step further, invited some more people in for the current album, and kind of bringing some of the old songs back with this one, but working on getting some of these new songs, right? A
Hmm.
song like Drifter that kind of is the story of my life, right? The
Mm.
story of those 20s that I was just a vagabond, and it was me
Yeah.
and a guitar. And also the second verse of that song is explaining like that was me then, and this
Hmm.
is me now. Now I'm a family man, no less a drifter at heart, but also not, just a free wielding seed blowing in the wind anymore.
Sure.
So the new music coming out later this year, I don't necessarily have a date set. It's going to be my best work by far. I have some of the
Awesome.
most talented people that I've ever known in my life. Tom Freer played drums on this one again. Our friend Diami Giroux, who's one of the most greatest bass players I've ever met. Kid that's about 22. He might have just turned 23 now. I don't know how these kids are so dang talented these days.
Right.
I don't have that much talent now. And then a good friend of mine came on and played guitar on it, named Johnny Hastings, and really just brought these songs to life in a way
Yeah.
that I never could have on my own, right?
Awesome.
And
Yeah.
to have these talented people invest in me without ever having to pay them as studio musicians. They're like, no, Bubba, like we just want to be a part of
Hmm.
your art. And if we get paid, cool. Like whatever. That's not why I'm doing it. I
Yeah.
wanted to be a piece of this. And that was the first time in my life where, that music wasn't transactional.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We've talked about the busking. We've talked about, so
Yep.
like every music transaction has been just that. It's been, I am paying for money, or I am
Mm.
playing here in this spot because I'm getting paid. And
Yeah.
people are coming into the band because they're getting paid. I mean, I've gone through hundreds of band members before
Hmm.
I finally was like, okay, there is no band members. There is me. This is my project. I will hire professional musicians to sit in on
Yeah.
the specific night. It changed my life, right?
Hmm.
It changed my life. It opened me up because back, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, when you're wanting to record with a band, it was a, whoa, well, well, then I want to do this and I want to do this. And I'm just like, I'm not coming to it from that. Like, I want the
Mm.
song to sound like it does here, not
Yeah.
necessarily what it sounds like in your head. This
Right.
is my, this is my
Your
business. This is
project.
my art, right? I
Hmm.
just started treating it differently. And
Yeah.
once I kind of took that ownership, it changed dynamics in the band. And it was kind of a necessity where it was like, okay, I'm not really into inviting you into telling me what my song should sound like.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's not out of ego. It's not out of anything, but just like I'm not comfortable doing that anymore. I'm 30 something years old now, right? About to be 40 next year and moving into another decade of my life and
Yep.
a new season. I wanted to have very clear boundaries set for that next phase of my career.
Yeah. I think
I'm
that's
not
a great thing.
stopping.
I
I'm
think,
not stopping what I'm doing.
yeah, no, having boundaries can only make the focus of the intention even sharper, right? And that's, I think, with anything in life, but especially as an artist, I think it's really easy to get persuaded, whether it's the industry or, like you said, other friends that you're playing with, that sort of thing. So,
Yeah, and
good job
sometimes
for, yeah.
even if you don't agree with what they're saying, you're
Hmm.
kind of playing in that band dynamic where you're like, well, shit, if I piss him off, he's gonna go away, and then I don't have this person, and like I was just tired of playing that game, right? I was tired of tiptoeing around. I was tired of being married to other people's relationships and things going on. It's like I
Yeah.
have my own stuff going on.
Yeah.
I really and out here it's more difficult because there's such a lack of players, right? But that's also what's turned my touring life on its head too. Is like, okay, well then I'll just go to where there's players. And now we're having doors open for us in the Twin Cities. We're trying to get into Kansas City, St. Louis. I was just down in. So it's like, okay, cool. If South Dakota and these hometown gigs
Hmm.
aren't going to be, if it's going to be difficult to do that, then just go where it's easy, right?
Yeah.
Go be like water. Find the path of least resistance and just go do that. Because I'm a lot more free to travel because music is my business, is my life.
Hmm.
I'm a lot more free to travel than somebody, which is most players out here, that's a weekend warrior. You have
Yep.
a regular job that pays your bills and it's unaffiliated with music in any way,
Mm.
and that runs your life, and then you get to show up and play some music on the weekends, which is fine. It was just not the path that I was back on, kind of getting things moving, right? I felt
Yeah.
that momentum moving and was like, I got to go now. If I don't go now, I might miss my opportunity. And then I'm going to be filled with regret the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't stand to do that.
You have to give it a shot. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm excited. We're definitely going to be staying tuned to see when the new stuff is coming out. And right now, it's the singles are already out on Spotify and everywhere, right? We've got the music. Is the
Some of
music
them
video
are, yeah.
out?
So
Okay.
we got 3 singles out that
Yeah.
we're kind of building up to where we've gotten now, and then we have this batch of 5 songs. I don't know. I'm so over the Spotify game completely. I
Fair.
think
That's totally fair.
I might press these 8, 7 or 8 songs that we come up with.
Hmm.
I might press them straight onto vinyl only. And
Hmm.
if you want one, you can buy them directly from me exclusively. If you want to hear this music, if I matter enough to you,
Yeah.
then you can afford to pay for it
Yep.
and not give your money and attention to an app or a company that doesn't care about me at all. And I think I'd speak for a lot of independent
Yeah.
musicians when I
Yeah.
say that the Spotify and with
It
them the
is.
rest of the industry do not care about us as individuals or as artists, as songwriters. You are much better off building your own community and letting those people lift you up.
Yeah. No, that's so true, especially now that like Spotify is just getting flooded with AI music. It's not even it's not even like real people. But that's a
Right.
whole nother
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. Gosh, we could meet
Oh,
we could meet weekly and
yeah,
have
we
discussions
really
about music
could. We
topics.
really could. Oh man. Well, two more things I want to touch on as we're, going through all of these amazing stories. It's been so interesting to hear about your life's journey so far, and I can't wait to hear the new music as it comes out. But I know through your podcast, you guys have a few different partners that you work with. So let's talk for just a second about the one that's just over your shoulder here, Operation Combating Veteran Suicide. That sounds like a really important
Well, and it
partner.
is.
So yeah.
Right. Well, and it all started with a statistic. 22 veterans a day are committing suicide. And
Wow.
as just an American, I think we could be a little disappointed in ourselves that we're not taking care of these people.
Yeah.
And I was very fortunate to have Charlotte Rupp, who is the founder of OCVS, join me. She is our Mrs. South Dakota International Beauty
Hey
Pageant Queen
now.
currently for
Awesome.
2024. So we connected through Facebook. She saw a post. We were looking for some motorcycle clubs to take part in an event with us. And she had commented as Mrs. South Dakota. And I was like, oh, great. Thanks for sending us those. But what are you doing? You
Yeah.
know? And so she was a guest judge for us at one of our songwriter competitions. The showcases kind of evolved. As I won an award, I realized what that means in the world. So now we have a nonprofit partner to kind of work side by side with these. We have another one scheduled already for September. But her mission is simply to reduce the 22 at the very least, right? Let's bring that number down. And we're doing that by boots on the ground. She is in the Rapid City, South Dakota area working with veterans every day. She's been
Wow.
working with veterans for decades and only started the nonprofit last December after, being in the pageant and winning the pageant, right? To now build out her platform and to do even more to help these veterans.
Yeah.
Charlotte is a volunteer for No Veteran Dies Alone. So
Mm.
she has sat at the bedside with, older veterans or any veteran that
Wow.
was in hospice care and to make sure that they had someone holding their hand. So
No.
she's really dedicated her life to really helping these people, not just like a theory of a veteran community. She's
Yeah.
really been there with the people. So we're doing
That's
everything that we
incredible.
can to help her in her dream of building transitional housing apartment complexes and communities that are for veterans specifically to end this. We end it by helping, right? Like
Yeah.
we're not
Yeah.
just going to throw money at a problem. We have plans to build a unit in Rapid City, by the end of 2027, right? So I
That's
mean,
not too far
we're putting
away.
in
That's
no,
great.
we're putting an
Yeah.
impetus on this and really getting it done. The mission right now is to raise a $500,000 for the seed money.
Mm.
And that's where we teamed up. It was, well, if you need help promoting your mission, I would love to be that
Mm.
person.
Yeah.
And we kind of just tie them to everything that we're doing. It was a cause that's very near and dear to my heart. I have several family members. Both of my grandfathers are veterans of the
Yeah.
United States military. So it was just, and not being a veteran myself, my path was just different, that I wanted a way to give back. And I'm so grateful. I just met Charlotte and her husband, Casey, back in May, right? So we have a
Awesome.
brand new relationship, just a few months old, but we've already made such an impact in our lives. And we're both growing our platforms right now.
Yeah.
She's about to go into, July 19th, she'll be competing in the international competition. And when she wins that, now her level is raised that much more.
Yes.
And we can do that much more raising money and bringing awareness to, first of all, the statistic. And then what do we do about it? And
Mm.
working with other, veteran nonprofits and really anyone who wants to make a difference in the world. That's what I want my life to be about now, Courtney, is
Yeah.
I don't want to waste away on these events. We did a songwriter showcase for another nonprofit
Hmm.
called Saving Avery. We
Okay.
have a friend of ours who her daughter, 2 years old, diagnosed with type 1 diabetes,
Mm.
will live with a pump on her and the finger sticks and the like all the things.
Yeah.
And being introduced to that and relatively early in their diagnosis, right?
Mm.
And realizing how many families it was affecting in just the Black Hills, right? Just the Black Hills of South Dakota. All
Hmm.
these families coming out, dealing with the same thing. Thousands, tens of thousands of dollars coming out of pocket. That's why we were like,
Yeah.
well,
Diabetes
can we
medicine.
do it? can we do a
concept. Yeah.
songwriter showcase for your daughter and for your thing? I don't think they even had the nonprofit yet, but they had something. I was like, can I raise money for your daughter? I'm so compelled by your story.
Yeah.
And after doing that event, I think we ended up raising over $1,000 that night, right? Which isn't like a huge thing, but she was able to take that money and to buy 10 smart meters for other families and gifted them to
Awesome.
other families. And it was like, oh, the impact that we're having is not just to one family, it's to many. Like, why would you want to just go and play a bar show after that? Right? Like, what do I care about just
Right.
going and entertaining people who are drinking? That's not what I care about at
Yeah,
all. I myself,
absolutely. Yeah.
I don't drink like I used to. I will have one occasionally, but I'm not in that party scene anymore. It doesn't
Yeah.
intrigue me in the slightest,
Yep.
but saving lives does, and making a
Absolutely.
difference does. So we're just
Absolutely.
going to keep doing more events. Obviously, everything's centered around music. The podcast kind of just rides in the sidecar, and and now we have, Operation Combating Veteran Suicide all over everything that we're doing, as well as, other events with Saving Avery and another, kind of veteran focus. They're helping veterans and low income families get into cars. They're called Angel Cars
Oh,
out of
cool.
Wisconsin.
Okay.
So it's really working with this tandem of the nonprofits,
Yeah.
and it's all brand new to us. Like, we have no
Yeah.
idea how it's all going to look. It's all going to be so much different in another year's time, but we know that what we're doing is having an impact already.
Yes.
What can we do as we continue to raise that vibration and raise our platforms up even higher?
So cool. This is what it's all about, people. Thank you so much, Bubba. I am so inspired by you, and I feel so many parallels between, like I said, the community, music, and just helping each other. That's what it's all about, really. And so I just have one last question for you, and if there's anything else that you want to add, then we can throw that in there as well. But my last question, I ask every guest this. The power of music is just beyond our comprehension, right? It brings people together. It's the universal language, and we all have different stories and connections to different songs. So, is there a song or maybe multiple songs that has saved your life or changed your life in some way that comes to mind?
It's I don't want this to be ego driven, but it was one of my songs, and it was a song that I wrote for my wife after we'd kind of had a big fight, and it was my apology to her. It's called True
Mm.
Meaning. It'll be on the new album.
Oh, I just got the chills.
And it's brought her to tears several times playing it, but it was that direct heart connection. It was that, like, just the simple me saying I'm sorry wasn't enough.
Yeah.
I screwed up. Here is this, right?
Yeah.
And please accept this where I'm sorry isn't good enough. So, True Meaning is definitely one. Ramble on Rose by the Grateful Dead, because of what it meant as a favorite of my mom's, that wherever I was on the planet, all of those traveling, because I didn't even have a cell phone back. These days we're talking in California, Oregon. This is
Yeah.
2006, 7, 8. Like, I just wasn't connected to the world like that.
Yeah.
And so my connection to my family and to any of those good memories was music. So
Mm.
yeah, there's a lot of those. And there's probably several more Grateful Dead songs because it was so important to our
Oh,
family, right?
yeah.
That's what we were listening to at home. That did that. Too many to name probably, but those two definitely stand out as being ones that when when I needed to feel love,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
I know that I can play and sing these songs now,
Yeah.
and I will return to that emotion and be able to feel that. So
That's so cool. Thank you for sharing that.
yeah, well, thanks for asking. You got some great questions. You're really good at
Thanks.
this podcasting thing.
Well, I've got some great guests on, so thank you for being one of them.
Yeah, no problem. And as far as plugs go, I want to start with Operation Combating Veteran Suicide. You can find them at oc-vs.com. We really hope that you get on there, make a small donation, become a monthly contributor. We got a lot of perks and stuff that we're going to build into the community as we continue to grow with them. And then you can check us out on thesceneprojects.com. Find the podcast, engage with us there, join us on Patreon from there, and become part of the smaller community. Support us if you'd like. We would love to not worry about paying the bills and having to work so hard all the time. And then, yeah, the band is startzandends.com, StartzAndendz. And yeah, we'd just love to connect. If you're another artist or, even anyone who is slightly intriguing, honestly, I would love to have you on my podcast and to hear your story.
Yeah.
Because I really think that sharing these stories is how God is speaking through us. It is how the universe is healing itself.
Yes.
We're no longer hiding things in the shadows. I think real is conquering all right now. I'm sure you feel that in your podcast and the responses that you get from people.
Absolutely.
These raw stories matter because I think over the last 10 years, we've all been made to think that we're screwed up for some reason for having problems in our lives.
Yeah.
And
we're alone in it.
And that's
Yep.
why community and connection are so important, right?
Yep.
It is exactly why I'm so grateful to have a podcast of my own. Not that anyone couldn't. We're on Zoom, right? Like, we're not doing anything crazy here, right? It doesn't take all of this, but the conversations are critical to our survival as a society. I think if we don't have this one-to-one connection with each other, if we don't get out of the political theater sides and we don't get out of this us versus them or me versus you thing and don't just start talking to each other again, then we're never going to fix anything. And that brings me to another line that I wrote. I wrote this song 5 years ago now. Well, yeah, 3 or 4 at least. And a line in Rise Up. And it goes, it will never work out if it's never worked on. And you can't expect stuff to get any better if you're not willing to put your boots on and your hard hat and to go out there and do it. And sometimes that hard hat is staring in a camera and looking a new friend in the face and just laying it all out there.
Yeah.
And being real and sharing your story. And that's why I know we're doing the right thing. So congratulations to you on all the success in your own music career, as well as the podcast. I think you got an awesome thing going here. I hope that I can send some other friends of mine your way and let them share their stories with you as well.
Absolutely. And it sounds like we'll be having some sort of collaboration shows in the future at some point. And so
oh, well, I'm getting you on the Scene Projects, and we're going to talk all about you for 45 minutes to an hour.
All right. Well, stay tuned for that. And gosh, this has been so fun. Thank you again.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah. And for all the listeners out there, if you enjoyed this conversation today, be sure to subscribe on YouTube at Courtney McKenna. Check out all of the different sites that Bubba just listed. And we'll see you next week on Music is My Mantra. Until then, stay healthy, wealthy, and wise.